Chapter 2 of Anne Veronica. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. Recording by Joy Chan. Anne Veronica by H.G. Wells. Chapter the 2nd. Anne Veronica gathers points of view. Part 1. "Are you coming to the Fadden dance, Anne Veronica?" asked Constance Widgett. Anne Veronica considered her answer. "I mean to," she replied. "You're making your dress?" "Such as it is." They were in the elder Widgett girl's bedroom. Hetty was laid up, she said, with a sprained ankle, and a miscellaneous party was gossiping away her tedium. It was a large, littered, self-forgetful apartment, decorated with unframed charcoal sketches by various incipient masters, and an open bookcase, surmounted by plaster casts and the half of a human skull, displayed an odd miscellany of books, Shaw and Swinburne, Tom Jones, Fabian Essays, Pope and Dumas, cheek by jowl. Constance Widgett's abundant copper-red hair was bent down over some dimly remunerative work, stenciling in colours upon rough, white material, at a kitchen table she had dragged upstairs for the purpose, while on her bed there was seated a slender lady of 30 or so in a dingy green dress, whom Constance had introduced with a wave of her hand as Miss Miniver. Miss Miniver looked out on the world through large, emotional blue eyes that were further magnified by the glasses she wore, and her nose was pinched and pink, and her mouth was whimsically petulant. Her glasses moved quickly as her glance travelled from face to face. She seemed bursting with the desire to talk, and watching for her opportunity. On her lapel was an ivory button bearing the words "Votes for Women." Anne Veronica sat at the foot of the sufferer's bed, while Teddy Widgett, being something of an athlete, occupied the only bedroom chair, a decadent piece, essentially a tripod and largely a formality, and smoked cigarettes, and tried to conceal the fact that he was looking all the time at Anne Veronica's eyebrows. Teddy was the hatless young man who had turned Anne Veronica aside from the avenue 2 days before. He was the junior of both his sisters, co-educated and much broken in to feminine society. A bowl of roses just brought by Anne Veronica adorned the communal dressing-table, and Anne Veronica was particularly trim in preparation for a call she was to make with her aunt later in the afternoon. Anne Veronica decided to be more explicit. "I've been," she said, "forbidden to come." "Hullo!" said Hetty, turning her head on the pillow. And Teddy remarked with profound emotion, "My God!" "Yes," said Anne Veronica, "and that complicates the situation." "Auntie?" asked Constance, who was conversant with Anne Veronica's affairs. "No, my father. It's a serious prohibition." "Why?" asked Hetty. "That's the point. I asked him why, and he hadn't a reason." "You asked your father for a reason!" said Miss Miniver with great intensity. "Yes, I tried to have it out with him, but he wouldn't have it out." Anne Veronica reflected for an instant. "That's why I think I ought to come." "You asked your father for a reason!" Miss Miniver repeated. "We always have things out with our father, poor dear," said Hetty. "He's got almost to like it." "Men," said Miss Miniver, "never have a reason. Never! And they don't know it. They have no idea of it. It's one of their worst traits, one of their very worst." "But I say, Vee," said Constance, "if you come and you are forbidden to come, there'll be the deuce of a row." Anne Veronica was deciding for further confidences. Her situation was perplexing her very much, and the Widgett atmosphere was lax and sympathetic, and provocative of discussion. "It isn't only the dance," she said. "There's the classes," said Constance, the well-informed. "There's the whole situation. Apparently I'm not to exist yet. I'm not to study, I'm not to grow. I've got to stay at home and remain in a state of suspended animation." "Dusting," said Miss Miniver, in a sepulchral voice. "Until you marry, Vee," said Hetty. "Well, I don't feel like standing it." "Thousands of women have married merely for freedom," said Miss Miniver. "Thousands! And found it a worse slavery." "I suppose," said Constance, stenciling away at bright pink petals, "it's our lot. But it's very beastly." "What's our lot?" asked her sister. "Slavery, downtroddenness. When I think of it, I feel all over boot marks. Men's boots. We hide it bravely, but so it is. Damn, I've splashed." Miss Miniver's manner became impressive. She addressed Ann Veronica with an air of conveying great open secrets to her. "As things are at present," she said, "it is true. We live under man-made institutions, and that is what they amount to. Every girl in the world practically, except a few of us who teach or typewrite, and then we're underpaid and sweated. It's dreadful to think how we are sweated." She had lost her generalization, whatever it was. She hung for a moment, and then went on, conclusively. "Until we have the vote, that is how things will be." "I'm all for the vote," said Teddy. "I suppose a girl must be underpaid and sweated," said Ann Veronica. "I suppose there's no way of getting a decent income, independently." "Women have practically no economic freedom," said Miss Miniver, "because they have no political freedom. Men have seen to that. The one decent profession, I mean, for a woman, except the stage, is teaching, and there we trample on one another. Everywhere else, the law, medicine, the stock exchange, prejudice bars us." "There's art," said Ann Veronica, "and writing." "Every one hasn't the gift. Even their woman never gets a fair chance. Men are against her. Whatever she does is minimized. All the best novels have been written by women. And yet see how men sneer at the lady novelist still. There's only one way to get on for a woman, and that is to please men. That is what they think we are for." "We're beasts," said Teddy, "beasts." But Miss Miniver took no notice of his admission. "Of course," said Miss Miniver. She went on in a regularly undulating voice. "We do please men. We have that gift. We can see round them and behind them and through them, and most of us use that knowledge, in the silent way we have, for our great ends. Not all of us, but some of us. Too many. I wonder what men would say if we threw the mask aside, if we really told them what we thought of them, really showed them what we were." A flush of excitement crept into her cheeks. "Maternity," she said, "has been our undoing." From that she opened out into a long, confused, emphatic discourse on the position of women, full of wonderful statements, while Constance worked at her stenciling, and Ann Veronica and Hetty listened, and Teddy contributed sympathetic noises and consumed cheap cigarettes. As she talked, she made weak little gestures with her hands, and she thrust her face forward from her bent shoulders, and she peered sometimes at Ann Veronica, and sometimes at a photograph of the Axenstrasse near Fluelen that hung upon the wall. Ann Veronica watched her face, vaguely sympathizing with her, vaguely disliking her physical insufficiency and her convulsive movements, and the fine eyebrows were knit with a faint perplexity. Essentially, the talk was a mixture of fragments of sentences heard, of passages read, or arguments indicated rather than stated, and all of it was served in a source of strange enthusiasm, thin yet intense. Ann Veronica had had some training at the Tredgold College in disentangling threads from confused statements, and she had a curious persuasion that in all this fluent muddle there was something real, something that signified, but it was very hard to follow. She did not understand the note of hostility to men that ran through it all, the bitter vindictiveness that lit Miss Miniver's cheeks and eyes, the sense of some at last insupportable wrong slowly accumulated. She had no inkling of that insupportable wrong. "We are the species," said Miss Miniver. "Men are only incidents. They give themselves airs, but so it is. In all the species of animals the females are more important than the males. The males have to please them. Look at the cock's feathers. Look at the competition there is everywhere, except among humans. The stags and oxen and things all have to fight for us, everywhere. Only in man is the male made the most important. And that happens through our maternity. It's our very importance that degrades us. While we were minding the children, they stole our rights and liberties. The children made us slaves, and the men took advantage of it. It's, Mrs. Shalford says, the accidental conquering the essential. Originally, in the first animals, there were no males, none at all. It has been proved. Then they appear among the lowest